Hey everyone, you've probably heard the story of the thirsty crow, right? It's a classic. But today, let's look at it through a totally different lens. Forget the bedtime story, this is a masterclass in creative problem solving. All right, let's break this thing down. We're going to see how this one bird's desperate search for a drink of water actually lays out a timeless blueprint for strategic thinking. I mean, this is the art of problem solving in its absolute purest form.
Okay, first up, let's set the scene. We're calling this section A Thirsty Crow. And yeah, this is where it all kicks off. The core problem, the big challenge our hero has to tackle.
So, just imagine this, right? You've got this crow, it's flying under a blazing hot sun, and it is desperate for water. We're not talking about just being a little thirsty here. This is a life or death situation. The stakes are as high as they get. Every single second that ticks by without a drink is pushing our little hero closer to the edge. Talk about a sense of urgency.
All right, moving on. Now the problem gets really specific. It's not just that there's no water anywhere, it's right there, but completely out of reach. Section 2, water out of reach. So after searching forever, the crow spots a pitcher. And for a second, there's this huge rush of hope. But then, bam, the crushing reality hits. The water is right there. You can see it, you know it's real, but it's way down at the bottom, totally inaccessible. It's basically an impossible physics problem, right? The pitcher's design versus the crow's beak.
And this just lays it all out, doesn't it? On one side, you have the crow's beak, its only tool, which just can't reach. And on the other, you've got the water, trapped at the bottom. It's that classic, super frustrating gap between what you want and what you can physically do to get it.
Okay, and this is the turning point. This is where everything changes. We're shifting gears from just pure desperation to actual analysis and strategy. Section 3, an ingenious idea.
So let's be real, the situation looks pretty hopeless, doesn't it? The crow can't just smash the pitcher. It's probably not strong enough to tip it over. It seems impossible. So, what does it do? I mean, what would you do here? Let's just sit with that for a second before we get to the brilliant solution.
And here's the thing, the solution wasn't some kind of magic trick. It was a clear, logical process. Step 1, the crow actually looked around, observed its surroundings instead of just staring at the problem. Step 2, it identified the tools it had on hand, in this case, pebbles. Step 3, it came up with a hypothesis, right? Hey, if I add these pebbles, the water level should rise. And finally, step 4, execute the plan. I mean, that's basically the scientific method right there, playing out in nature. It's awesome.
All right, so now it's time to test that hypothesis. Section 4, Pebbles in Water, is where we get to see cause and effect in action. It's so simple, but so brilliant.
And it all begins with just one pebble. You know, that's not just a tiny action. That's the first step. That's the spark. It's the proof you need that, hey, this might actually work. And it breaks you out of that feeling of being totally stuck. Okay, now we're at 10 pebbles, and suddenly you've got a proof of concept. The idea's working. You can see a visible change, and that's the feedback loop you need to keep going with confidence.
And check this out. 50 pebbles in, and we've hit the tipping point. This is where you see the incredible power of small things adding up. All those little consistent actions have combined to create a massive, game-changing result. It's amazing.
So what's the big takeaway here? This wasn't some quick fix, it was slow. It was methodical. Slowly but surely, the water level rises, just one pebble at a time. The crow's patience and consistency were the reason it worked. No shortcuts, just smart, persistent effort.
And that brings us to our final section, the lesson for today. So, what does this all mean for us? How do we take this ancient story and actually use its wisdom in our own lives?
You've probably heard the saying, where there's a will, there's a way. And yeah, that's definitely the heart of this story. But it's so much more than just wanting something really bad. It's about having the will to think outside the box, the will to be patient, and the will to actually follow through on a smart plan. So let's just quickly recap the big lessons. First off, being smart is way better than just being strong. Ingenuity over brute force every time. The crow outthought the problem. Second, it shows you the real power of incremental progress, how tiny little steps can add up to a huge breakthrough. It also teaches us to use our environment, to see what tools are right in front of us. But really the biggest lesson of all, patience and persistence. They aren't just nice-to-have virtues, they are actual strategic tools you can use to solve what feels like an impossible problem.
So as we finish up here, I want to leave you with a question to chew on. What's the picture in your life right now? You know that big goal that seems just out of reach? And more importantly, what are your pebbles? What are the small, simple, consistent things you can start doing, maybe even today, to start raising that water level and get what you're after? Something to think about.